Welcome to Small Stories, Big Healing, where old teachings speak softly into modern lives.
When you cannot stop comparing yourself to others, when you work hard but still feel not enough, have you ever wondered what excellence truly means? Is it perfection, cold and unreachable? Or is it something quieter, something kinder, something lasting? Once upon a time, in a coastal town where morning mist clung gently to the rooftops, there lived a young man named Mateo. Mateo was talented with his hands. He repaired bicycles, carved small toys from wood, and could fix a broken hinge with nothing but patience and a steady breath. But Mateo carried a restless hunger inside him. Every time someone praised his work, he felt relief, only for a moment. Soon after, a new worry would rise like a wave. What if I'm still not the best? What if someone else is better? What if I never reach excellence? So Mateo began chasing perfection the way a thirsty person chases mirages. He started waking before sunrise, pushing his hands until they ached. He repeated the same task again and again until his thoughts grew sharp and unforgiving. If a line was slightly uneven, he called it failure. If a customer was satisfied but not amazed, he called it weakness. And slowly, the joy that once lived in his work began to fade. One afternoon, Mateo received a special request. A traveling musician had come to town, an elderly woman with silver hair tied in a neat braid and eyes as calm as still water. Her name was Amina. She carried a worn instrument case, and inside it was an old wooden flute, cracked near the mouthpiece. "I've played this flute for many decades," she said gently. "Will you repair it?" Mateo's heart lifted. A rare job, a delicate job, the kind that could prove he was truly excellent. "I will do it," he promised, already imagining the praise. Amina nodded. "Thank you, but before you begin, I'd like you to meet someone." She led him beyond the market streets, past salt-stained fences and laughing children, to the edge of town where a small workshop sat facing the sea. There, an elderly craftsperson stood by the door, sanding a piece of bamboo with slow, careful strokes. His name was Tenzin. He did not look hurried. He did not look anxious. He looked present. Amina spoke softly. "Tenzin, this is Mateo. He will repair my flute." Tenzin bowed slightly and welcomed Mateo inside. The workshop was simple. No fancy tools, no trophies on the wall. Only a few neatly arranged instruments and bundles of bamboo hanging from the ceiling like quiet wind chimes. Mateo expected Tenzin to test him, to challenge him, to judge him. Instead, Tenzin poured warm tea into a small cup and asked, "Tell me, Mateo, why do you want to be excellent?" Mateo straightened his shoulders. "Because I want to be the best." Tenzin nodded, as if he had heard this many times. "And why must you be the best?" Mateo hesitated. Then the truth slipped out. "Because if I'm not, I feel like I'm nothing." The room grew quiet. Outside, the ocean breathed in and out, steady, unbothered by human worries. Tenzin set down his sandpaper and reached for a stalk of bamboo. "This bamboo," he said, "looks strong, doesn't it?" Mateo nodded. Tenzin tapped it lightly. "But do you know what gives bamboo its strength?" Mateo examined it. "It's thick." Tenzin smiled. "Not thick, not loud, not proud." He turned it so Mateo could see the inside. "It is hollow," Tenzin said. "Bamboo survives storms because it is willing to bend, and it can become a flute because it has space inside." Mateo frowned slightly. What does that have to do with excellence? Tenzin's eyes softened. Many people chase excellence like they chase a crown, he said. But excellence is not a crown. It is a practice, a way of living. Mateo listened, but his impatience returned. He wanted instructions. He wanted a method. He wanted certainty. Tenzin gestured toward a table in the corner. On it sat 2 bowls of water. One was clear, the other was cloudy, filled with fine sand that swirled when touched. Tenzin said, "Put your finger in the cloudy bowl and stir." Mateo did. The sand rose like smoke. "Now stop," Tenzin said. Mateo stopped stirring. The water remained cloudy. Tenzin continued, "This is the mind that chases perfection, always stirring, always judging, always rushing. It never becomes clear." Mateo watched the restless water. Then Tenzin pointed to the clear bowl. This one became clear because it was left alone long enough for the sand to settle. Mateo's voice grew tight. "So you're saying I should do nothing?" Tenzin chuckled softly. "No, the ocean does not do nothing. It moves every day, but it does not panic." He placed the cracked flute on the table. "Mateo," he said, "repair this flute, but with one condition." Mateo leaned forward. "Anything?" Tenzin said, "You must repair it with 3 breaths for every step you take." Mateo blinked. 3 breaths? "Yes," Tenzin replied. "Before you cut, breathe. Before you glue, breathe. Before you sand, breathe. Let your hands follow your breath. Let your breath follow the sea." Mateo wanted to argue, but Amina's calm presence made him quiet. So he agreed. At first, Mateo felt trapped by the slowness. His mind shouted, "This is wasting time. You could be faster. You need to prove yourself." But Tenzin simply sat nearby, sanding bamboo, never rushing. So Mateo tried. He took 3 breaths. He examined the crack. He prepared the adhesive. He aligned the wood carefully. He took 3 breaths. His hands began to tremble less. His shoulders dropped. His jaw unclenched. He took 3 breaths. And something unexpected happened. Mateo began to notice. He noticed the grain of the wood, like tiny rivers running through it. He noticed the way pressure changed the shape of the repair. He noticed that rushing did not create excellence, only noise. Hours passed. Mateo worked with quiet focus, and when his mind tried to lash him with criticism, he returned to the breath. By evening, the flute looked whole again. Mateo held it up with pride, careful pride, softer than before. Amina lifted the flute and played a single note. At first, the sound was thin. Then it warmed, rounding into a gentle, steady tone that seemed to fill the workshop like sunlight. Mateo's chest tightened, not with anxiety, but with something tender. Relief, gratitude, peace. Amina lowered the flute and smiled. "It lives again." Mateo turned to Tenzin, waiting for the final judgment. Tenzin asked only one question. "How do you feel?" Mateo opened his mouth, then paused. For the first time, he did not feel like he was chasing something. "I feel calm," Mateo said quietly. "I feel present." Tenzin nodded. "That is the doorway." Mateo frowned. "Doorway to what?" Tenzin leaned forward slightly. "To excellence." Mateo looked confused. "But excellence means being better than others." Tenzin shook his head. "No," he said. That is competition. Competition is loud. Excellence is quiet. He tapped the repaired flute gently. Excellence, Tenzin continued, is doing what you do with care, whether anyone applauds or not. It is improving because you respect the craft, not because you fear being small. Mateo swallowed. But what about mistakes? Tenzin smiled warmly, as if welcoming an old friend. Mistakes are part of the path, he said. If you demand perfection, you become brittle. But if you seek excellence, you become resilient. He held up the bamboo he had been sanding. Do you see this? He asked. Bamboo is not strong because it never bends. It is strong because it bends and returns. Mateo stared at the bamboo's hollow center. Tenzin continued, when your heart is full of pride, it has no room to learn. When your heart is full of fear, it has no room to grow. But when your heart is hollow like bamboo, open and humble, excellence can pass through you like music. The words landed gently but deeply. Mateo felt tears prick his eyes, not from sadness, but from recognition. All this time he had been chasing excellence with clenched fists, when excellence required open hands. That night, Mateo walked home by the sea. The moon laid a silver path on the water, and the waves kept their steady rhythm, never rushing, never stopping, always returning. Mateo whispered to himself, as if making a promise, care over praise, practice over perfection, growth over comparison. From that day on, Mateo still worked hard, but he no longer worked with cruelty. He began to measure his progress differently, not by whether someone else was ahead, but by whether he was more patient than yesterday, more honest than last week, more steady than last month. And as his fear softened, his work improved in a way that surprised him. People noticed, not because he bragged, but because his work carried something rare: peace. And that peace, like music from a repaired flute, traveled farther than perfection ever could. Now, let us speak of the moral, clearly and without confusion. The moral of this story is this: excellence is not perfection, and it is not comparison. Excellence is consistent care, guided by humility, patience, and presence. Perfection says, if I fail, I am worthless. Excellence says, if I fail, I will learn. Perfection is a stiff branch that snaps in the wind. Excellence is bamboo, hollow enough to learn, strong enough to endure, and flexible enough to grow. And what about your life? Maybe you are chasing excellence in your work, or in your studies, or in your fitness, or in your relationships. But tell me, have you been holding your life too tightly? Have you been stirring the cloudy water with harsh self-judgment, hoping it will become clear? If so, remember Mateo's 3 breaths. Before you answer that email, take 3 breaths. Before you criticize yourself, take 3 breaths. Before you quit, take 3 breaths. Then, ask yourself a gentler question. Am I trying to be perfect, or am I trying to grow? Because growth is something you can return to every day. And that is how excellence is built. Quietly, patiently, faithfully, one sincere step at a time. If you learned something today, or if Mateo's journey brought you even a small sense of calm, I invite you to stay connected with us. This is Small Stories, Big Healing, short tales to soothe your heart and guide your steps. If this story should reach more people who are struggling with the pursuit of excellence, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and comment below. What does excellence mean to you? Your one comment may encourage someone else who feels not enough tonight. And if you'd like more stories that bring gentle comfort and insight, please subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next healing tale. Until then, move like the ocean, steady, patient, and unafraid of time. Small Stories, Big Healing will be here with another tale whenever your heart needs a gentle reminder.